sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to a new edition of the Sports Shop 27. I'm your host, Jermaine Coulter. And to my far right, I got my main man, KJ, Kevin Johnson, former Clemson football cornerback from 1999 to 2002. And today's special guest, oh, man, we got a big-time head coach in the house.
That's right, man.
This guy right here, time ACC Coach of the Year. He went 11-0 at Tulane University in 1998. Won the conference title that year, Coach of the Year in Conference USA. He has over 90 wins, 49 losses, tons of bowl games. Coached at Duke. He coached at Alabama.
Hey, all of
Tulane,
them,
East Carolina, and Clemson. Y'all give it up for my main man.
Hey, man. My coach, Tommy Bowden. Hey, what's up, man?
I tell you I've been on a lot of these shows. That's the best introduction I've ever seen. Somebody stayed up last night putting on. They had every picture up there with KJ except the one of me yelling at you at one time. They must have left that one out.
Yeah, they left that one out, man. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it today.
You didn't get yelled at too much. I can promise you that.
No, I appreciate you.
Yep. So for the people that don't know you, Coach, let them know where you're from and a little bit about your background.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was born in South. My father and mother are from Birmingham, Alabama. So most of my siblings, I've got 5 siblings. All of us were born in Birmingham except for my brother Terry, that was the head coach at Auburn. He was born in Georgia. And then my father kind of flipped. He played college ball down in Birmingham, Alabama, a little school. Back then it was called Howard College. Now it's called Samford University out of Birmingham.
Okay.
All right.
So that's kind of where I grew up in between Georgia. He was the head coach of the South Georgia Junior College. So I kind of grew up in Georgia and Alabama. And then back in 1960, my father, or 63, he took a job at Florida State. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, I lived in Tallahassee when he was assistant coach. Y'all might have heard a guy he coached named Fred Blitnikoff, great receiver at Oakland Raiders, but he coached him at Florida State. And then he took an offensive coordinator's job at West Virginia. So I moved to West Virginia when I was in 7th. Back then they had what they call junior highs, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. So I went 7th, 8th, 9th, played my high school football at Morgantown High School in West Virginia. And then I walked on at West Virginia, earned a scholarship, started my last 2 years at wide receiver, and then married a West Virginia girl, started my coaching career at West Virginia. And that brings me up to about 23, 24 years old, as far as mostly in the South. And I moved to West Virginia and married a hillbilly. My wife's from Morgantown.
Okay, all right, Coach. What age you start playing sports, and what sport was your first love growing up?
Well, my father being a head coach at a young age, KJ, he wasn't around that much growing up. My mother, she kind of. I got three brothers and 2 sisters. My children had 6. My parents had 6 children in 10 years, so it's all packed in there pretty tight. 4 boys in the middle, girls in the end. So our games were out in the backyard with touch football and baseball and things like that. But a neighbor, a good friend of mine, his dad came in and grabbed me out of the front yard, and I didn't care about playing organized football. I'd play that street football. But the 3rd grade is when I started actually playing football in pads down in Tallahassee, Florida. I started 3rd, 4th, 5th, and on up through high school and college. But 3rd grade, I ran track in high school. I played baseball up until about 10th grade. But the baseball, it was a good sport till they started throwing that curveball at me, KJ. As soon as that curve came at me, I was gone. I was halfway back to the dugout, and the umpire said strike 3. And then that little daggone baseball, I played shortstop, so I fielded a lot of the balls. They said, I did a great job of getting down in front of it. They said, just put your glove on the ground, get your tip of the glove on the ground. If it takes a bad hop, it'll hit you in the chest. So I was good about getting hit or the face, and the reason I stopped. They didn't tell me that ball would hit you in the jewels too. Once I caught one of the jewels, I was through that daggone through that baseball. Yeah, I was hoping it hit me a little lower in the stomach. So I said, that's it. That's enough of baseball. So I stuck to football in college.
Okay. So growing up, Coach, who was your favorite player to watch when you were a kid?
The TV, obviously games weren't televised a whole bunch back then. And so it's not like we sat in front of TV and had a bunch of games. Tallahassee at that particular time when I was in, third, fourth, fifth grade, really didn't follow pro sport. Now, when I went to West Virginia, Pittsburgh is about 60 miles north of Morgantown, where the University of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I put my junior high school, and college really following the Steelers. Terry Bradshaw, Lynn Swan used to do a lot of TV work, great receiver from Southern Cal. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was probably a guy I watched more than any. I was always interested in skill guys, but Pittsburgh had the great defenses back in what they called the steel curtain, and it just had a great defense, and they had some great wide. John Stallworth, I believe, played at maybe Alabama A&M or Alabama State. I think Alabama A&M maybe, but John Stallworth was the other wide receiver with Lynn Swan. So that would probably be the one guy that I watched, and then I followed a guy named Steve Largent. Used to play for Seattle Seahawks, undersized guy. And then when I coached at Tulane, I coached at Tulsa. You missed that one. I coached at Tulsa for about 4 months. But I went over and visited Steve Largent at his home. He played at Tulsa. So Lynn Swan, when I was real young, I kind of thought if I was going to play college football, I like to follow those guys that are undersized, that were overachievers, that had success.
Hey, Coach. So when you started playing football, what position did you play? You started off with.
In high school I was running back. Didn't throw it back when I was in high school. We had wide receivers out. You usually had two tights, one wide receiver, two running backs. Traditional fullback, tailback. I was a tailback. We ran a split back offense, so I was really a tailback and a defensive back. Started both ways.
Okay. All right.
Had some success. We played for the state championship my senior year of high school. We lost to a school called East Bay. Then I walked on at West Virginia as a wide receiver. Gosh, KJ, I don't think I was maybe 148 pounds. Probably 5'9", 148. I had some quickness. Didn't have good speed. Had some quickness.
Oh, yeah.
I could catch pretty good. I could block you. I was an ankle biter. I'd get down there.
Okay.
Goes down there and get you tied up.
Yeah,
And
get low.
so I did play one year at defensive back, but 4 years at receiver. Then started my last 2 years at wide receiver.
Okay,
Nice.
All right. So when you got to West Virginia, who was the coach or the student or administrator that welcomed you into campus?
Well, that was the head coach, my father.
Okay.
He was my father. I walked on, and walk-ons back then, you just you got the last number, you got the worst pair of socks, you're lucky if you got a pair of shoes that fit, you went in there and you kind of really earned your spurs. And my father prepared me really well mentally on what to expect. He said, son, you can't, because you're my father was the head coach. He said, because you're my son, you can't be equal. If you win a job, you're gonna have to be better. It's gonna have to be obvious that you're better. So I spent a couple of years on the scout team, and obviously had some close friends on the team. And you get my age, which I've just turned 70, a lot of those guys, man, every time you pick up the internet or check on somebody's passing away, somebody that's your teammates is gone. But my father was my head coach, and then I had a couple wide receiver coaches that are obviously out of coaching. But my senior year, KJ, my head coach was a guy named Frank Signetti. And Frank Signetti had a son about 6 years behind me called Kurt Signetti, who's now the head coach in Indiana, and of course knocking it out at 10-0. So Kurt's dad has passed away, but he was a Hall of Fame coach. He was my head coach after my father left. I started 1 year for my father, 1 year for Frank Signetti, and then once I got through playing, I knew I wanted to be a coach. So then I started hanging around to jump into the coaching profession.
Okay.
So talk about the bowl games. Did you guys play any bowl games at West Virginia?
My father, when I was a redshirt, maybe sophomore, we played NC State in the Peach Bowl. Lou Holtz was the head coach, and they beat the fire out of my father. They beat him pretty bad. I didn't dress. I was redshirted. And
Okay.
then my senior year, 19, they didn't have very many bowl games back in. Not
Oh,
nearly like they did. You were lucky to go to a bowl game. You had to have nine, right around 9 or 10 wins. You couldn't get in with a 6-6. It just wasn't bowl games. And the Peach Bowl was in Atlanta. But my senior year, we went to the Peach Bowl, played wide
okay.
receiver, played NC State again. Same Lou Holtz team. Lou Holtz was the head coach. This time we beat them 13-10.
Okay. Close game. Yes,
So
sir.
I actually was in two Peach Bowls. Played in one where I actually caught some balls and some stuff. Actually participated, and then after that Peach Bowl, it had what they call a student assistant. I stayed at West Virginia, worked on my master's because I could get my school paid for, and then I started as a young student assistant, graduate assistant, volunteer part time. Then I kind of started my coaching career. But my bowl wasn't a lot of bowl games there wasn't
Okay.
very many bowls at all. And it wasn't the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl back then. It's just called the Peach Bowl. That's all it
Oh
was.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hey, so who was the competition at while you was at West Virginia at that time?
There was a guy named Steve Lewis that I was competing with. He was from lower West Virginia. He looked like a wide receiver, KJ. He was 6'3", lean, maybe 195. Ran smooth. He wasn't very fast, but just smooth and good hands. And then
Mm-hmm.
and back then, nowadays with four wide receivers, you put four on the field, you're two deep, you're eight, three deep. You probably got 10 to 12 wide receivers on the team. Back then, you didn't have maybe 4 or 5 because you usually we only had one wide receiver. And
Yep.
and
Yep.
and sometimes we'd play two. But that guy named Steve Lewis was my main competition. But and then we had a basketball player, KJ, that was about 6'6", 215, that played basketball in West Virginia and came out for football his last year. A guy named Scott McDonald, about 6'6", 210, who ended up being a
Wow.
really good college receiver. He just wasn't very
Okay.
fast. But us three
Mhm.
were pretty much played the two wide receivers.
Okay. Cool.
Nice.
Cool. All right. So you get your degree. You started coaching at West Virginia. Talk about that experience coaching at the same school that you attended. Were you nervous? Were you
Well,
just
that's it. It's usually it's usually hard to coach at the same school to start your coaching career at the school you played because you got to coach guys that you played with.
Mhm.
I'm 1 year older and I play with a lot of those guys, so it's really difficult. But as a graduate assistant, you usually don't coach them per se like a full-time coach. So I
Mhm.
started. My father gave me a little bit of advice. He said, "Listen, there's two jobs that are most marketable in college football. If you can master one of these positions, coaching, you're going to make yourself marketable because they're hard to come by." One was offensive line because you coach 5 guys and you're in charge of 5, and so since you're in charge of 5, you go paid more money, but you can't do anything, run or throw, without efficiency up there. And being
Mhm.
a skilled guy with my size, I knew I wasn't going to coach offensive line. He said the other position you better learn to coach if you want to get to coach is secondary. If you're coaching 4 guys, if you're back there, something goes wrong, it's usually a touchdown. But finding good secondary coaches, wide receiver, offensive line coaches. So I went into coaching the secondary. I started as a graduate assistant. Then I coached the secondary for 1 year. A guy named Jim Bates, really good secondary coach, coached in the NFL a long time. He played at the University of
Mhm.
Tennessee. Then he left. And after 1 year, he left. So my father wanted me to come to Florida State. I was maybe 23, 24. He said, "I've got a good defensive coordinator down here, coaches secondary. Come down here. He's an older guy, more experienced guy. You can coach under him. I'll let you be a GA in the secondary for him at Florida State." And Coach today said, "No," he said, "I really want you to stay here." He says, I worked for my first year, Jim Bates. Jim Bates left. He says, "I'm bringing in this young secondary coach. He's really good." He says, "I think you'd work really good with him." And I'm thinking to myself, well, if I need to learn, I better go with an older guy. at Florida State.
Mhm.
So I stayed long enough before I packed up and went to Florida State. The young guy coming in was about 26, a young secondary coach called Nick Saban. He was the secondary coach that came in to West Virginia that Frank Cincinnati hired.
Yeah.
And if I would have stayed, I would have coached for him. I still know much about him, like I knew the guy down at
No.
Florida State who had more experience. So I left West Virginia and Frank Cincinnati, Nick Saban, and went to Florida State again, coaching the secondary, and stayed there for maybe 2 years. And then I got my first full-time job was in East Carolina. You didn't mention East Carolina either, because I was only there for about 4 months. So I went and I went about January to East Carolina to coach the secondary. I recruited, went spring recruiting. I was there 4 months, coached the secondary in spring ball. Then the head coach at Auburn called me. He said, "Would you like to come down here and coach running backs?" I said, "Man, I'm 26 years old, going to Auburn to coach running backs." They had a
Man,
great
that's
tradition of running backs, and so I went to Auburn, coach running backs, and then that guy got fired in about three months. So when the head coach gets fired, you're fired. So back to
dang.
Florida State, coach the tight ends, and then kind of bounced around a whole bunch.
All right, cool. So I guess you went to Alabama, afterwards Duke University.
Yeah.
Talk about how you landed at Tulane.
Oh yeah, man. Oh
Well,
yeah.
when I went back to Florida State after being at Auburn 6 months,
Uh-huh.
I went to Duke for my first full-time job at
Okay.
Duke, coaching wide receivers.
Okay.
KJ, that's where I first experienced Clemson, playing at Clemson in the environment. And I said, "Man,
Oh,
what a great environment."
nice.
And then after I left Duke in 4 years, I went to Alabama. Went to Alabama for
Mhm.
3. Then I went to Auburn for about 7. And I spent about 11 years in the SEC. I went to Kentucky. I coached wide receivers at Alabama, and then the head coach left and went to Kentucky. I got a chance to go to Kentucky as the offensive coordinator. And I'm a coordinator in the SEC. I'm 36 years old. I said, "Man, if I can do good enough, maybe we can catapult to a head coaching job somewhere."
Oh yeah.
So after I stayed there 1 year at Kentucky. And then that guy that got the head coaching job, a guy named Pat Dye, he said, "Will you come down here and be my coordinator at Auburn?" So I said, "Well, yeah, I'll go down there. I've been at Auburn 7 years. It's a great place." And he said, "You need to come down and see it." I said, "No, I've already coached here. Just get me on a plane and let's go down there to work." So I
All
coached
right.
down there for him for 2 years, offensive coordinator. He gets let go. So now you're out of a job again. But my brother Terry got the head job, went undefeated his first year, won his first 20 games. I was a coordinator for him for about 6 years, and then Tulane called as far as being the head coach. And I had interviewed I interviewed at Ole Miss for the head coaching job at Ole Miss when I was at Auburn. I interviewed at Kentucky for the head coach at Kentucky, and talked to some other schools, I think Cincinnati and maybe a couple other schools, Connecticut, about their head coaching job. Didn't get Ole Miss, or didn't get Kentucky, but got the Tulane job. And most of my friends, KJ, they said, "Don't take it. That you're gonna get fired." All they do at Tulane is fire coaches.
Yeah.
It's a private school in a big city. They don't draw any. Since it's a
Oh,
private
any
school,
traffic. Hmm.
traffic, and it's not
Yeah.
a campus
Hmm.
environment like Clemson, Auburn, Alabama, West Virginia. It's a college community.
Oh yeah.
Tulane doesn't have that. Plus, it was a private school. In a private school, the academic requirements were higher, so you don't your pool of talent is not as big as recruiting at Alabama, or Auburn, or Florida State, or Clemson. Any of those schools where the entrance requirements are not as strict as a private school. So they
Oh
said,
no.
"Man, you're gonna go there and get fired. Don't do it." And couple of them say, "Do it and go." And the
Yeah.
athletic director was a woman, athletic director. So they said, "Man, got a woman athletic director. More coaches get fired than hired." So I said, Mac Brown had been there about 3 years before. No, about three coaches before me.
Oh,
You know who Mac Brown is at North Carolina now coaching?
okay.
Oh,
Coach,
oh yeah.
Coach
You know who he is?
Tar
Mac.
Heels.
Okay. Okay. Well, Mac had been the head coach and he won 7 games. It took him 5 years. He won 7 games his 5th year and got the North Carolina job. So I'm thinking
Okay.
to myself, I said, man, I think I can win. I think I can win 7 games. I said, I think if I win 7, I can go get me a good job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So my first year won 7. Next year won 12, and
Yeah.
that's when Clemson
Undefeated.
called, South Carolina called, Arkansas called. You know, we're undefeated that second year, and of course, when you go undefeated, you get a lot of attention. So
Oh yeah.
that was, but the job at Tulane, I just about didn't take that job because everybody told me you can't win, you can't win, you can't. Well, we
You
went
proved them
undefeated the
wrong.
second year, and then you get a lot of opportunities.
Yep. So you coached Sean King at Tulane. He went 12-0.
Yeah,
That season right
yeah,
there was a big surprise. I remember I was probably a junior, senior in high school. We was coming out. Talk
Oh yeah.
about that year and how special that was for everybody to doubt you and for you to go undefeated and win the conference
Oh
title,
yeah,
yeah,
man.
coach of the year.
yeah. You know, the guy that was head coach before me, a guy named Buddy Tevens, has since passed away. He got hit on a bicycle. He was coaching up at Dartmouth, but he really recruited pretty good. He was running a traditional I formation, run action, pass offense. I really felt like if I could go there and get me some skill and spread the field. I had used the no huddle at Alabama when I was a wide receiver coach. I was familiar with the no huddle. I was familiar with the fast pace. Rich Rodriguez
Oh yeah.
was the head coach at a place called Glenville State in West Virginia,
Okay.
scoring all kind of points, just knocking it, never huddling, throwing every down, running the fast pace offense. And I knew Rich. I had worked some camps for Rich. I said, well, gosh, I need to hire him. And let's see if we can go out
Yeah.
there and run an offense that people aren't familiar with. Let's see if we can score some points and win some games and get out of here. And fortunately, Sean King was a quarterback, and he was just an excellent quarterback. And then I had some good little skill guys, wide receivers, and good little running backs, and had a defense that just had some guys that fought you. They just fought you tooth and nail. And we were a fast paced offense. We threw them back on the field a whole bunch. But I remember Lee Corso was at ESPN. He played at Florida State and had a relationship with my father. And I called Lee Corso after my first year at Tulane because I'm just trying to get publicity. You don't get Tulane doesn't get publicity. So I said, Coach Corso, if I get a private plane and fly, I'll come get you in Orlando. I'll fly you up here. Will you just come up here and watch us? I think we got a chance to be pretty good if we could be healthy. And I wanted just fighting for any kind of publicity we could. And right there, he was kind of top of the marketing thing right there with ESPN back then. So he said, "Listen, Tom," he said, "I can't do it." He said, "I just don't. I feel like I'd be showing favoritism. I can't. I wouldn't be being fair if I flew in there and just took a look at you." But KJ on his preseason show before the season started, he made this statement. I'll never forget it. He's right before getting ready to kick off the season. He said, "Now y'all watch Clemson. Y'all watch Tulane because Tulane's got something going at Tommy Bowden." He says, "I think they have a chance." And he said this on TV. He says, "I think they have a chance to go undefeated." And of course, he went undefeated. He looked like a prophet after that. You know, he looked like he
Oh
was
yeah.
some kind of great soothsayer.
All right.
But it was a great year. And the thing you don't realize when you get in a position like that, you don't have as good a talent as a Clemson or Florida or Alabama, Auburn, but your talent's relative to who you're playing. You're playing Army, Navy, Memphis, East Carolina, teams like that. Now the team back then, KJ, in what was called Conference USA was Southern Miss. Man, they were a guy named Jeff Byer was the head coach. They were public schools. They great players in Mississippi, Louisiana, and they win the conference every year.
Yep.
So I said, if we can get by Southern Miss, which we did, I lost to them my first year up in Hattiesburg. We played them the next year in Tulane and beat them down in New Orleans. But I knew that was a hard game. And then we played Louisville. A guy named John L. Smith was the head coach, and his offensive coordinator was a guy named Bobby Petrino. Used to be the head coach at Arkansas. Now the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, head coach of the Falcons. And man, we went back and forth. Our offense, we couldn't stop each other back and forth. And all of a sudden, we're ahead by 1, and they scored late, and they got fourth and going for 2, and threw a 2-point conversion. The guys open, and our defensive end knocked it down. Ended up winning the game, going undefeated. And that was the Thursday. We played Thanksgiving weekend. My last game was against La Tech. That Louisville game was a couple of games earlier. I had to be La Tech to go undefeated. We played them on Thursday, Thanksgiving Thursday. So played them on TV, beat them like 65-14 or something. And then Friday I was talking to Clemson at my house, and then Saturday I was talking to South Carolina, the ADs at my house, about both those jobs were open at the same time.
Yep. All right. Wow. So we got former players checking in. Aries Perry say Coach Bowden.
Oh yeah, man. What's up, Aries?
Oh man, Aries Curry. I tell you what, he's a jet.
Speed man. Oh yeah.
Tell Coach to hook your boy
He's
up
a
with
jet.
Days. I know he has the connect still.
But Aries remind me a little bit like KJ. Nice looking guy, smile, could talk. Aries and KJ could have been politicians. They got the gift of gal. They can talk and smile, man. They can. Both them guys are great guys. Good to hear from Aries though.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
The coaches, well, he said coaches is exaggerating on that height. Laugh out loud.
Yeah, no, he was good player. Good player.
Oh, yeah. Alan Williams.
I got a clip I want to play from Tulane real quick. I don't own the rights to the video or anything. For everybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Deezer. We have former Clemson Tiger University head football coach, Mr. Tommy Bowden. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this clip. Stay with me, Coach Bowden. All right.
All righty.
I coached for 32 years, and being from the state of Alabama, coached at Alabama and Auburn, of course Clemson, Florida State, and Kentucky, and Duke, and a lot of good places. But Tulane's special because it was where I cut my teeth, my very first head coaching job opportunity.
It's really great to have Coach Bowden and his wife back here on campus. Obviously, they've set the benchmark for what Tulane University athletics can be. This is arguably the most successful athletic team in the history of Tulane.
Going undefeated is hard to do. I don't care where you are. Really, you're more happy for players. You're more happy for the support system, administration. People really backed you and got you here. Just really thankful for a lot of people that took a leap of faith by hiring me.
All right, we back. So, Coach, you take those visits from the AD from South Carolina and Clemson. What made you decide to go Clemson?
When I was coaching, I spent 11 years in the SEC, coaching the SEC, Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, and going to the Swamp and Baton Rouge at night, the Knoxville, 100-some thousand, going to Starkville and Oxford and Auburn, and just great environments. And they come in early, and so when I was at Duke, coaching at Duke, we were playing at Duke. It'd be 15, 20,000 orange Clemson people up there. Duke, they stayed in the library most time. I couldn't get them out of the library to come to the game, those students. But I was around an SEC environment. And then we went to play at Clemson when I was at Duke and played at Clemson. 80-some thousand, loud, raucous, just great atmosphere. And that to me was back then, back when I was interested in it, it was an SEC, what I call an SEC environment. And I thought between those two jobs, Clemson, South Carolina, when I was bouncing around 19 years an assistant at all these schools, and being from the South, I had about 8 schools that I had in my mind. I said, if God will ever let me be a head coach of one of these places, I'd love to be a head coach in one of these 8 schools. Alabama, Auburn, LSU. The SEC that was over the Western Division. Florida, Georgia, Tennessee over the East Division. and then Clemson and North Carolina. North Carolina because it's a really, really good football state, and they kind of they kind of are the state school up there. They kind of got all the connections, all the influential alumni. So I thought if you can lock that state down as the head coach of North Carolina, you could be really successful. Mac Brown had just won 10-win seasons back to back. He beat everybody but my father at Florida State. So I had it down to those 8 schools. And I was very fortunate that when we went undefeated at Clemson, that Clemson came undefeated too late. Clemson came open, and then had South Carolina offer me the job. They didn't. They hired Lou Holtz, but I took the Clemson job before they hired Coach Holtz. I don't think they would have offered. I think they had their eyes on him because after they left me, they went to go interview Coach Holtz. But so Clemson was on my list. I said this. You get they had won a national championship in '81. The only thing they didn't have, KJ, man. I was really surprised on my visit. The facilities really weren't very good. They had the wire mesh metal lockers that you have in high school. And I said, man, we have got to change that. Now it took a long time to do it. And KJ might remember some of those recruiting visits early. I kept telling everybody, listen, we're going to get some facilities. We're going to get them. I promise you, we're going to get them.
Yeah.
And then then they wouldn't do anything. There's so much bureaucracy and red tape to get facilities. I talked to the board of trustees and talked to them. Just didn't have the money, couldn't get the money. We got to do this, do that. And I remember, so after about 2 or 3 recruiting weekends of our year, my first couple of years of telling them, they didn't do anything. So then I got some pictures and I put pictures up in the team meeting room. This is what it's going to look like. I promise you, we're getting them. And then that went for a couple of years, and they still didn't start it. So one time, I think we rented a bulldozer and parked it out there beside the building. So we're getting ready to start these new buildings. And then we finally started. I think my last year there, they finally started that new addition on the end zone with a new locker room. It took about 9 years, but I remember those early years at Clemson, we really struggled for, and I was surprised because North Carolina was the cream of the crop. They just built brand new facilities. Duke had built a brand new facility. I said, man alive, we have got to get up to speed. So finally we did, the board approved it, and we started working on some better facilities. And now they're as good as any they've got in the country.
All right. Yep.
All right, Coach. So talk about your first, whenever you got the head coaching job, your first time, touching the field, seeing all the fans, the very first time.
Well, I was the only thing that's really unique. It makes Clemson different, more unique than any school in the country. And I've been to a lot of them. And even when we played away, I played at Notre Dame and played at Ohio State. I played in some of those great stadiums and seen a game day activity. But that coming out of that locker room at Clemson, and you come out of the locker room, you look to the left, you can see the field. It's right there. And you go opposite the field. You go opposite, and you get on those buses, and that's you're ready for a game. You get on the bus, and then you drive around with those sirens, and then you're trying to get your team. And I remember my first year there, KJ, we did that, and of course you're trying to get them fired up in the locker room. First game there, and your head coach, and you want to make a good impression. You're getting them fired up. They went there, and they went and got on that bus. I got in that police car in front. And the 2 buses behind me, and so we went and played the game, ran down the hill, great tradition, running down the hill, rubbing the rock and all that. And about Wednesday, I got a bill from the athletic department, said, Coach, your player beat the fire out of that bus. They took the helmets, broke all the windows, sleeves, all that stuff. And I said, okay, boys, we got to tone it down just a little bit till the game starts. It's a great environment. A great environment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
So,
know.
Coach, going into that 1999 season, and you were out recruiting, what were you looking for in particular in KJ's class when you went out and recruited those guys?
I was looking for players that looked like Florida State is what I was looking at. Florida State had won. They had 14 top 5 finishes. Now, a top 5 finish, 14 in a row. I'm going to ask you 2 guys. Let me just give you a short little quiz.
Okay.
My father had 14 top 5 finishes. not 10-win seasons, top 5. They were 10-win seasons, but they were 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. All right. Who's next and how many? What school is next and how many wins?
Ooh,
That's a good one.
5.
You got us thinking.
Man.
Now you won't be here. I'll tell you that. All
Ohio
right.
State.
First off, what do you think? What do you think? No, not Ohio State. What do you think is second? How many? If 14 is the highest, what is second?
Shoot,
What
50.
is it, man?
How many?
And who is
How many
second?
do you think?
If 14
No,
is
give me the
first.
number. What? No. If my father's 14, what do you think? What number you think is second? What number?
Man,
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Like,
Hey, I think it's either 6, 7, or 8. Now,
okay.
the schools that a lot of people guess Alabama. Alabama, no. Notre Dame, no. It's Miami, and it's Oklahoma, and it's Southern Cal. I think they've got 6. Those 3 schools are tied, but I know we're going to talk about it later. And we kind of got off sidetrack,
No,
but my father had 14. 14. He had 14 top 5 finishes in KJ. Those 14 years, he started seven fourth-year junior, fifth-year senior quarterbacks. Got him Charlie Ward did start. He was a junior, won the Heisman. Chris Winkie started as a fourth-year junior, redshirt,
Oh, yeah.
won the Heisman. Casey Welton came in second to Heisman, fourth year. I could go on down the list. Danny Canal, Peter Tom Willis. I could go on down the list. But nowadays with the transfer portal, never happened. Those guys have been gone. They would never wait 4
Oh,
years
yeah.
to play
Yeah.
2.
That's
And
true.
see what I mean? So his record will never be broken simply because of the transfer portal. Charlie Ward would have never waited 4 years. Neither would Chris Winkie.
Yeah. They would
Neither
have
would Casey Well. They're not going to wait. They're not going to sit the bench for 3 years to play 2. There's no way
No.
because everybody
Mhm.
leaves now. But when you say what kind of play, going back to your original question, I got sidetracked. What kind of players were you looking for? I was looking for when I looked at Florida State on film in 1999, and I said, "Holy
Hey,
smoke!"
big boys, man.
Well, they were big. They had edge rushers that you couldn't block, and interior guys you had to commit 2 linemen to, and great running backs, skill guys. Just and the quarterback
Greg
that could.
Jones. Oh, no. Mm-hmm.
Greg Jones, that big guy. He came up he got hit from South Carolina. He came up and got another linebacker from South Carolina. I think, Albert Hainsworth to Tennessee.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't keep him. I couldn't keep them. If I could just keep them all in states,
You're right.
because South Carolina is just not a big state.
Yeah.
It's not heavily populated. But
Mm-hmm.
we turned the table, started getting them. But and now we started my about 3 years before I left. I think we ended up second in the nation recruiting. The year we signed Juwan Byers, I think we ended up second against Miami, Clemson, Alabama. Alabama signed Julio Jones. We sold Daquan Byers. And so we ended up second in the nation. The next year, we were at 9th. That I left. So we were just starting to turn the table from a talent standpoint, but it takes a while to catch up with those schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I got some clips of the 1999 season, and we're going to go ahead and get into it real quick. I don't own the rights to the music in this clip or the video. We have Coach, former head coach of Clemson University. All right, everybody, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify, Deezer, and Instagram. Stay with me, Coach. We'll be right back, okay?
All righty.
What have you done now? What have you done now? Told y'all niggas. Just don't listen. Why must you be hard-headed? Try to explain. She didn't hear me though.
final year of the century was the first year of the Bowden era of Clemson football. Tommy Bowden took over the Clemson program and brought an electric atmosphere to Death Valley. Based on his rate of success at Tulane over the preceding 2 seasons, Clemson fans could not wait for the opening of the 1999 season. Making significant improvement on the 1998 season's mark of 3-8 was not in the cards, according to the preseason prognosticators. With the loss of all 5 starting offensive linemen for the first time in 56 years, and 6 defensive players who were drafted by the NFL, more than any team in the nation, the Tigers were picked to finish 6th in the ACC. Most college football pollsters thought Clemson would be out of the postseason bowl picture. A brutal schedule that included games against bowl teams in the first 5 games of the season, plus Bowden Bowl 1 against national championship favorite Florida State in Week 7, made soothsayers doubt Clemson's ability to make a rise in the ACC standings. This was Clemson's challenge for 1999. for the middle and firing for Whopper. Touchdown. Flying deep downfield. He has got Gardner, and Gardner has got the football at the 30-yard line of the Turks.
Is back. The glory days of the national championship with Tommy Bowden now, bringing it back to Clemson.
All right, we're back. Brought back some memories, Coach.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, I get flashbacks.
About ready to go back out there, huh?
Yeah, well, not that good of flashbacks.
Okay.
That's brought back a lot of memories. I forgot all about some of those things we did that first year. We did some good things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ari said you were definitely successful against Lou Holtz, and he said the facilities definitely upgraded significantly. They would have had to make me go back to the courts. That's what Ari said about the facility. So, so you had
a lot of people ask me. A lot of people ask. Let's say you mentioned South Carolina. A lot of people ask me, Coach, if you do it over again, if you had head coach of Clemson again, what would you do different? And I said, if I did anything different, KJ, that if I'd get in control of scheduling myself, and I would have dropped Wake Forest and played South Carolina twice. If I could have done that, we would have been in good shape.
That's what's up. Right.
I could beat South Carolina. I just couldn't beat Wake. I couldn't beat Wake Forest. How about let me play South Carolina twice?
Yeah. So some of the people that you mentioned that escaped the recruiting ranks from Clemson were Ari said Mike Bolwell, Chris Hope, Alex Barron. Those guys were some of the top players in the state. And you coached. And Ricky Sapp just joined us. Said, Coach Bowden, much love to that guy.
Oh, Ricky.
Oh yeah, big Ricky. I had a lot of good time. Ricky smiled as much as KJ did. He always had a smile on his face.
That's a good thing, man.
Except KJ always had. Ricky's always had a smile because he was usually doing something wrong. It was going to be in trouble. He's trying to get out of it. KJ just had a smile on his face.
Good. Yep. So, Coach, I was there for the Bowden Bowl 1. That was my first year actually going to a Clemson game to go see.
Man.
And that was an exciting game. What do you remember the most about that first matchup against your father?
Just the electricity of the game, and just the amount of media there for the game. I can remember one play scenario. I'll tell you what it was. We got ahead 14-3 at halftime. I've been in my father's locker room as a player and as a coach. I knew what he's going to tell his players. I knew, they won the national championship that year. They had a great team. Had 14-3. They tied it up 14-14. And then we had a chance to kick a field goal. We were down about the 25-yard line, KJ, and the ball was on the right hash. It was like third and 2. It's 3rd and 2. And I wanted to run I called timeout. I wanted to run a toss sweep to the field because I had a fake field goal that would have walked in. But it had to be on the left hash because the kicker's right-footed, and it's that one where the holder puts it down, he flips it over, he's blind over his shoulder. You see that one? And Florida State 100% of the time laid out. They laid out. It would have walked in, but you had to be on the left hash with a right-footed kicker kicking toward the field. Holder straps it over. They would have laid out. He would have walked in, but we were on the right hash. So I was talking to Rich Rodriguez. I said, Rich, I want to run a toss sweep to the left hash. He said, Coach, they'll kill us. We ain't gonna make first down. He said, we can't run it across the street. They've been killing us. So I said, no, I want to fake the field goal, get it. So we argued back and forth, and I relented. We went for it, didn't get it, and they blocked the field goal to tie it up 17-17. But if I'd have just been a little stronger and run that toss sweep, lost 3 or 4 yards, I didn't care how many we lost. I just wanted over there. I can guarantee the guy lay it out to the field, snapper, the holder just would have flicked it over his head, and my kicker would have walked in the dadgone, and we would have beaten him. Then my father would have shot me. My mother would have killed me. He
Got kicked out of the
wouldn't have
house.
won the he wouldn't have won the national championship if he'd done that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you went down the road and you beat them a couple times. How many times did you beat them?
About 4 times, right?
We played 9 times.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, KJ. Here's the thing I didn't know. All right, we played 9 times. He won 5. I won 4.
Okay.
But our first trip to Tallahassee, Clemson had not scored a touchdown, not just one in 10 years.
Wow.
In 5 trips to Tallahassee. So 10 years, Clemson had not scored a touchdown. I said, "Oh, holy smoke!"
Wow.
But we ended up beating him 4 out of 5. He beat me. He beat us the first 4. Then we won the last 4 out of 5. So we were getting better players, and talent was catching up with them. And then when you recruit and stuff, and as long as you got good players, the team with the best players usually wins. So when we started getting players comparable to Florida State's, but he won the first 4, then I won the last 4 out of 5.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the 2007 clip. It's not as long as the last one. I promise you that. Everybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Deezer, Instagram. We have former Clemson head football coach Tommy Bowden as our guest. And all you guys, just make sure you stay with me, okay?
5-3. Bobby Bowden says of the game, quote, "We don't like it anymore. These teams considered by many to be the top 2 in the ACC's Atlantic Division, so the loser will have to dig out of a deep hole to reach the conference championship game." Son coaches Clemson, dad coaches Florida State. Clemson already up 7-0. James Davis, 18 carries, 102, got his face mask grabbed, got his shirt pulled out, and still scored. Clemson up 14-0. Then freshman quarterback Cullen Harper. Screen pass to Aaron Kelly, set up beautifully. Sheds a tackler, sheds another, and 80 is gone. 21-0. This appeared to be a rout. Third quarter. FSU down 24-5, 3rd and 1. Antone Smith through the line, 49 yards. Doesn't quite make it here, but he would score on the next possession. Seminoles go for 2, don't make it. 4th quarter now, 24-11, 4th and 3. Drew Weatherford flushed out, finds Greg Carr. That's a first down. Later in the drive, 3rd and 10. Weatherford, Richard Goodman, he's open, he scores. It's now a 6-point deficit early in the 4th quarter. Still 24-18, 3rd and 10. Florida State was 3 of 17 on 3rd down conversions. Weatherford pressured by McDaniel and Alexander. Now 4th and 10, and oh boy. Bobby Bowden's offense managed 9 first downs. His lead over Sun is now 5-4.
Hey, man, he took off the hat, man.
Yeah. He losing his hair. I made him lose a little bit of hair.
So that completed the rivalry right there between you guys, because the next season you end up retiring and leaving Clemson University. What do you remember the most about coaching at Clemson? And if you could tell me, like, which bowl game was the one bowl game that you were surprised that you guys won?
Probably the Tennessee game, where I think they were 10th or 11th in the nation. They had won 10 games, and they were highly favored. Played in the Peach Bowl. I might have beat them by 10 10 or 12 points, something like that.
Oh yeah.
I remember that because they were one of the highest ranked teams that we played, and from the SEC had a 10-win season. And I forget who their quarterback was, but that probably been the one game the bowl game, probably the just the regular season game would have been the year that we went to Columbia and won 63-17.
Oh yeah.
When you can empty out the stadium at halftime, that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
Get everybody in the game. Makes a short 2-hour ride back to Clemson when you win like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. That quarterback was Ainge for Tennessee at the time.
Oh, is that who it was?
That-
Hey, okay. I was going to say Clausen, but it's Ainge.
Yeah,
I remember him.
Ainge, I think. But go ahead, KJ.
Yeah.
So how was it working for the ACC network? I know you got an opportunity to work for them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I did it for 8 or 9 years, and also had a show down in Atlanta with Fox that was taped. The ACC show was always live, and that's one of the reasons I was always working on Saturday. KJ, I never didn't get to go see. I didn't get to see any college football. Didn't get to go to any games. I didn't go to a Clemson game until 2 years ago when they honored my father. But so I was always working on Saturday, but I enjoyed it. You're still around football. You got to watch football. The ACC people at that the management staff are really quality people, and I really enjoyed it. So I did those two shows, and I do a lot of Christian speaking, which I still do. And so between the speaking and TV, I was staying pretty busy and living at the beach. I was living the dream.
Amen.
So, Coach, let me ask you: got NIL in the game now? It's a whole lot different than when you coach. You got transfer portal. Talk about how universities are not able to develop quarterbacks and skill position players because they jump the portal so fast. Talk about the pros and cons of having NIL in the portal. In your opinion.
Well, just the NCAA did it with very little foresight, very little planning, had no idea what they were doing, and it was kind of the wild west with the NIL and even the transfer portal. They tried to put some guidelines and regulations on it, which has helped a little bit, but quarterbacks now, like I said, they won't stay. They want to play the skill positions. KJ, the defensive backs, wide receivers, running backs, they're like them high-end foreign cars, the Mercedes-Benz and Lexus and all that stuff. Offensive linemen, they're like those, American-made Ford Chevys and all that stuff. They just kind of, they're low maintenance people. The skilled people are high maintenance. They want to play. They want football. There's five skilled guys and there's one football. All five of them want it, and only one of them can get it at a time. Anytime you give it to one, the tailback, the fullback wants it. You throw it to that wide out, the other one wants to throw it to tight end. Everybody's mad. So, and now people just leave. You can't coach real hard. Football's a loud sport. Golf's a quiet sport. Tennis is a quiet sport. Football's a loud sport. If I'm coaching secondary and I got to coach a corner over there and way on the other side of the field, and the other groups coming up, you got to yell loud instructions. And some players don't like that. They get mad. They think you're getting on them. They leave. Nowadays, you can't coach very aggressive. A player will leave, and it's even with discipline on academics. Making them go to study hall and attending class on time and doing those things. If you discipline them, a lot of them they'll just go. They'll pick up and leave, and it's really an issue. And then I think the NIL is a problem simply because sometimes the guys making money get beat out, and the guy that beats him out is not getting paid anything, and the guys getting all the money's on the bench, and there gets to be a little morale problem with the team, and it's just created all kind of issues for various reasons.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, you did a great job on the college level. Did you ever think about coaching on the pro level?
I never did, KJ. I always felt like my talent and what I had to offer was more influential to college athletes than it would be pros. I just, if my father would have been a high school coach, I probably would have coached high school. He happened to be a college coach, so I wanted to go into college. Had he been a pro coach, I'd probably gone into the pros. He never really had a desire, and I never really had a desire to coach in the pros.
Okay.
All right. Well, I got one more farewell clip for everybody that's watching, for all the Clemson fans that's participating tonight. We'd like to thank Coach for coming on, but I got one
For
more.
real.
This is like your farewell and thank you from Clemson University. They stay right, Coach. All right.
That boy had the highest of expectations, and he heard that Jesus would fill him up. Maybe something got lost in the language. If this was full, then why bother? This was not the way it looked on the billboard. Oh, smiling family beaming down on the interstate. Try to blame someone when our dreams won't rise up from their sleep, and the reaching of the steeple felt like one more expensive ad for something cheap. This was not the way it looked on the billboard. Oh, smiling family beaming down on the interstate. Dressed up nice for the congregation, scared somebody's gonna find him out. Through the din and the clatter of the hallelujahs, a stained glass Jesus sings. This was not the way it looked on the billboard. Oh, smiling family beaming down on the interstate.
All right, we back. So, Coach, I saw an interview where you were talking.
All right.
You said to someone, the next recruit that come in will be good. The next position coach will be good. I think Clemson, I'm leaving Clemson in good hands, and I believe that they have a chance to win a national title. You said that kind of sort of before you left. Can you piggyback on that and, your intern coach and now head coach, Dabo Sweeney?
I felt with the facilities that's the only thing I think we were lacking. We were improving the talent level. I think my first 3 years at Clemson, we had one guy drafted, and I think it was Rod Gardner. The first 3 years that I was there, nobody the first year. Rod the second year, and I don't think we had anybody the third year. Then we started, replenishing the talent, getting some good players in there. We closed the gap, and Clemson had won a national championship. And I felt like once we got that new building finished, and we were 6 months away, And then we had, I think, the second ranked recruiting class. We were backing it up with another class. And so I thought the foundation was there. And when we talked about Florida State, not scoring a touchdown in 10 years, then beating them 4 out of the last 5 years, we were closing the gap between the standard in the ACC at that time, which was Florida State. So we're closing the gap, improving facilities. So I thought we were getting a little bit closer. But I remember when the athletic director came in to see me on that Monday morning, said he was going to make a change. I told him, I said, and I might have. What usually happens in that particular case is when you make a change in head coach in the midseason, you take the coach on your staff with the most experience. A lot of times, the coach on your staff that will have been a head coach, and all you want them to do is just finish out the year. Brad Scott had been a head coach at South Carolina. Vic Koenig, my defensive coordinator, had been the head coach at Wyoming. I think a lot of people thought they'd give one of those two the job, and then go get your head coach at the end of the year, whoever you want. But I remember telling the athletic director, I said, listen, I think Dabo Swinney has all the intangibles to be a really, really good head coach. He's got great recruiting skills. He's got great relationship with his players. He's kind of an all shucks Christian, nice guy, smiling, but there's a toughness aspect to him also. So I thought he had all the ingredients. I remember telling the AD, I think his wife is a great asset to him. I think she's a great recruiter and will be beneficial to him recruiting. I think she will be an asset and great ambassador for Clemson. And I can remember the AD, he was sitting up talking to him. And I remember he kind of leaned back in his chair because I think I kind of shocked him. I recommended Dabo because I had 2 head coaches on the staff, and but so I left, and then he ended up naming Dabo, and the rest is history. Dabo's just done a fantastic job, and the Clemson's taken places. Every head coach wants to accomplish what Dabo did. That was my goal and objective. It's just sometimes it's not the right time, not the right place, but he was at the right time, the right place, and the right guy for the job.
Hey, Coach, talk about the importance of having a team chaplain. I know Darren Bruce, he was one of, when we was there, he was one of, he was with us. So.
We brought Darren from Tulane, but I always felt like KJ that we spend millions of dollars on the physical and the mental with tutors and weightlifting and football and equipment, and then you don't really address the spiritual, the mental, the physical, the spiritual.
Yes.
And I always wanted to try to give our players some resources where they could grow spiritually if they chose to. With the state law and ACLU, you have to make it voluntary. But I thought having a guy readily accessible can help their spiritual growth. And a lot of we live in Clemson's in the Bible Belt. The Bible Belt, right there through the Southeast, and most everybody I recruited, somebody in their family, either the young man or his mother or his father or his grandmother, his auntie, somebody has got a connection to a church or Christianity or spirituality, and would want to see their son or their grandson or nephew grow spiritually and not just put it on the back burner in 4 years. So Darren did that. Then I brought in a guy named Tony Eubanks that did it, but I always thought it was important to have a full-time guy just for football that could address the spiritual needs of a player.
Very important.
So, Coach, if you had to come in and coach a team right now out of retirement, what school would you go to?
Clemson. But those 8 that I mentioned, the 8 that I always liked, but now if the SEC's expanded, you'd have to throw Texas A&M in that daggone Western Division. In the Eastern Division, you got good schools too, but I don't know if my 8 schools would change originally. If I had to come back, I'd like to end back at one of those places, but it'd be hard to pick one. There's, after I coached for 32 years and coached some great places. There are some great college environments out there, like Clemson, like Auburn, living in Tuscaloosa, and and Florida State, and all these other places. There's some great places. Even going to a place like Tulane, and Tulane's a great sports town.
Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it really is. You got the Saints, and if you're winning, you got LSU right up the road. It's a big sports town. And when I won at Tulane, LSU was losing, and the Saints were losing, and we were the only show in town that was winning. It was a great experience. So, shoot, I'd go back there. Plus, they got
Oh
great
yeah.
food.
Yep.
Hey,
I
hey,
love
coach.
to eat.
Hey, coach. What you think about what Deion Sanders prime time? What are you doing out there in
Doing a
Colorado?
great job. I've really been. I didn't know what to expect, but I know he got a lot of criticism after this year. But you look at the strides that he made this year, and all the issues that he had last year: defense, not being able guys that can stop the run and rush the passer, and getting a running game. He corrected all his mistakes with his staff and making adjustments. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're really good and they're well
Yeah.
coached. But I
Mhm.
didn't know whether who would hire. Would he go hire his buddies or go hire guys that were quality coaches? And he's hired really quality coaches, and he's
Yes.
done
Oh yeah.
things that I've been really impressed with. And I've texted him a couple of times. He spoke at my father's funeral. I got to talk to him a little bit there, but
Okay.
I think a class guy and a great coach.
Right. Yes,
Well
sir.
said.
Who's your pick for the college football national championship this year?
Oh gosh, I can't believe George is really it surprised me with their offense. They had that Monken last year, and their offense is struggling a little bit, or they had Monken 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Ohio State until they lose, and all I really know about Ohio State, I listen to what Urban Meyer says about them, how
Oh,
talented they are, how much depth they have, both sides of the ball, on the front end, on the back end. And I
Right.
hear Urban Meyer talking about them, they have lost too. They've lost to Oregon, but uh, I just think if they were play again, I think Ohio State would win. But right now, Oregon or Ohio State look like the two best teams, and that they got the quarterback, skill guys, some quality up
Mhm.
front, and
Mhm.
depth and coaching that can get you there.
okay. All right.
Hey, coach. What's your message to the youth?
Message to the youth that I would say biggest thing would be don't quit. They're going to meet all kind of adversity. Life is about getting knocked down. I mean, it's ups and downs. In coaches, you win and you lose. And in life, I don't care whether you're 13, 14, 20s, 30s, 40s, 70s. There's three things guaranteed in life. You're either coming out of a problem, you're either in a problem, or you're fixed to go in a problem.
Whoa.
So there's going to be difficulty and adversity your whole life. It's just life is a series of new beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ever accept failure as the end. If you don't succeed at something, get up and go back to work. And then for a young person, I would definitely say you better be careful who you hang around with. If you want to
Mm.
be a young
There you
godly
go.
man, you better hang around with young godly men. And if you want to date a girl and be a godly couple, you better hang around with good godly couples. So be careful who
Yeah.
you hang around with, and don't quit. Don't quit.
All right. You like to thank anyone along your journey? From the first time you coach all the way up until now. Could be any
Yeah,
coaches.
yeah, there's probably if I had to pick three coaches. My father was a great mentor because number one, he was a coach. I was a coach. He was a
Right.
successful coach. I was trying to be a
Mm-hmm.
successful coach. He was a godly man, and I was trying to be a godly man. He was a family man, married 72 years, all the things
Wow.
that
That's amazing.
I wanted to be. He had. So that would be one. I coached for a guy named Steve Sloan that just passed away recently. He was my head coach at Duke. Played at Alabama. Was the athletic director at Alabama. My head coach at Duke. He was a good mentor. Then again, another guy's passed away. A guy named Homer Smith was the offensive coordinator at Alabama when I was there as a young wide receiver coach. Learned a bunch. My first real heavy dose of West Coast offense and learning about rhythm and timing. Of course, those would be three male mentors in the coaching profession. I've got a lot of Christian men that I've been associated with from a Christian perspective, but from a coaching perspective, that would be three guys that really meant a lot to me.
I'm sorry, did you say Steve Logan?
No, a guy named Steve Sloan,
Oh,
Sloan.
okay, all
Steve
right.
Sloan played quarterback. He played quarterback quarterback at Alabama, was head coach at Vanderbilt at 28, head coach at Ole Miss, head coach at Duke, athletic director at Alabama, and he has since passed away. But I coached for him 4 years at Duke. Just a good, godly man that had a priorities set, and somebody's a great mentor.
All right.
Nice,
Well, we
nice.
appreciate you coming on the show,
Oh
Coach.
yeah, coach.
It was delight having you here. A legend in the house. Everybody,
Let's do it.
you
Well,
just
hey, we'll get to the playoffs. Let's do it again. We'll have another show and talk football again.
let's
Let's
do it. All right.
Oh yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks for that. Now, you know it's past my bedtime, so I got my pajama bottoms on. I'm gonna get my pajama tops on, go right to bed.
All right.
Okay then. Get
All
some
right.
rest,
Hey,
coach. We love you, man.
we'll see y'all. Thank you.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me.
All right. No problem, Coach.
All
You
right.
guys just tune in to a new edition of Sports Shop 27. I'm your host, Jermaine Coulter. I'd like to thank my co-host, my main man, Kevin Johnson, KJ, former Clemson cornerback, and tonight's special guest, two-time ACC Coach of the Year, and also Conference USA Coach of the Year, Coach Tommy Bowden. All right. For everybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, Deezer, and Facebook. And you know, our motto is not how you start, it's how you finish. All right. Until next time, y'all be safe, and we'll see you soon. Appreciate you for tuning in.
Peace.